kancane kancane sizophumelela amabakho ngibana
Esimnyama ngekani sakebhula umhlaba zabukisa phansi naphezulu iyo Jose siyabulela Esimnyama ngekani sakebhula umhlaba zabukisa phansi naphezulu iyo Jose siyabulela wafika eMzantsi Afrika.
For those that have not subscribed on the YouTube channel, the Big Daddy Football Corner, please subscribe. And for those that have subscribed, thank you. Perfect. I'm back again. Analyst Simanga Makhubu. This is the Big Daddy Football Corner. If you are new in this channel, this is where we static game in PCC, break into pieces, and talk about the little details, of each and every match. And the season have started. First game of the season, Orlando Pirates versus SekhukhuneUnited, Orlando Stadium. Mkhize scored the first game, of the Betway Premiership under the new Coach Abdesalam Wadu, and Orlando Pirates lost 1-0. Phakathi esigodini. Yeah, guys. It's a game that I just feel that Orlando Pirates did not really deserve to lose. If football was fair, I think Orlando Pirates should have or should have at least a draw out of this match. But football has a way of punishing you. You can play all nice. You look at the ball possession. Orlando Pirates had something like 67, if I'm not mistaken. And Sekhukhune did not have much of those, but Orlando Pirates lost the match eventually. And it's just what it is, ladies and gentlemen. And unfortunately, that's how Orlando Pirates starts their first game. Maybe let's start looking at the lineup. Before the match, I think there was only one change from the game that Orlando Pirates played. It was just only Mashiolane that start ahead of Ushandu, in that right back position. And I wanted to listen to the coach as the decision of why they decided obviously to drop Ushandu from the top 20. And there are two reasons that he mentioned, the coach. First of all, he talked about the physical profile Kamashiolane, in terms of having him starting ahead, in terms of defending those set pieces. I think he was gearing up or to defend, those balls that are coming to the box because of his height, other than the other right backs that Orlando Pirates had, in this game. Then secondly as well, I also think because he's more of a man marker than all the other right backs. And if you've got a player like Makhala, who's normally all the provider, to Ukrobla, up front. And that's the reason. And there's a second reason, which at times, even myself, I've got a tendency of not looking at it, to say a lineup is always influenced by the type of opposition that the team is playing against. You can be a striker and score 3 goals in this match. The following game start on the bench. It's not because you're dropped, because you did not play, well. It's simply because the tactical structure of this game, it changes than the previous matches that we have played. So for me, coming into this game, my fear was Urobla. As much as he's 37 years old, one of the people on Twitter said Usabiswa umuntu na 37 years old, and I was like, it's not even about the age, it's about the impact that he had. Because I remember he playing for SuperSport Orlando Stadium, last season. I think it was MTN 8, when he came in between, the right back and the right centre back, and he headed the ball and Pule scored the goal. And I was like, this player tends to, always against Orlando Pirates, rise, to the occasion. Somebody on Twitter jokingly said he becomes a Cristiano Ronaldo when he's playing Orlando Pirates. For me, I was watching how Orlando Pirates was going to, to play, or how they were going to try and nullify Urobla coming to these games, because for me he's their dangerous player. Coming into the match, Sekhukhune played more of a 5-3-2, up front to Urobla, and their captain, our former player, in this instance, and at times it became a 5-4-1, in some instance where he drops back and into midfield and so that, because for me their most important player that won them this match, that people might not even notice, in this particular match, is definitely their captain, because how he managed to always drop as a la escupini eceleni kwabonduli nabombule to disrupt them whenever balls need to play into midfield. For me, it is the key player that made them win this particular match, and people might not even notice in this instance. So for me, watching the first half, there was just, because as I said, Robler for me was my key focus, because for me he was a game changer, and I think Orlando Pirates had a plan, even though he's not the one that ended up hitting them on a set piece. It was another player, but for me there was just one clever run that he makes, because he always making these runs where he will pretend he's gonna go this way and quickly make it a quick run, a quick change into midfield, and I was like, a quick change in front of the central defender, and I was like, hey, this guy is gonna give us problems. But I think Orlando Pirates managed to handle that well. But the greatest thing in the first half that was easily noticeable was the Sekhukhune pressing structure, especially in the very first 10-15 minutes. It was very impressive, because what they were doing is, when the center back, when it was a reset, the center back were pressed, high, and then they were also ensuring that in midfield they've got numerical superiority, so that they stop Orlando Pirates from playing into the middle. Any pass to Mbule, any pass to Unduli, they were aggressively pressing them and ensuring they disrupt, because the intention was to stop Orlando Pirates from playing through the middle. And because they were allowing Orlando Pirates to say, Orlando Pirates, you can play, we will force you to play using your right back and your left back, but then we will deal with the crosses when you decide to cross, because even our both right backs and left back, in the final third, the final pass into the box is not as crispy as you would like it to be, and they were allowing us into those spaces, because they knew that when you cross the ball inside the box, they're gonna deal with it, right? The other change that I noticed was on build up Orlando Pirates. They were there, both their right back and left back were high up on build up, and the intention of that was to ensure, because they were playing with 5 center backs, so they were forcing their 2 wing backs, pinning them up high, so that they don't on build up, they are not as high from their end. But that also then means Orlando Pirates was now building with, if you add the goalkeeper, it was now a 3-2 build-up shape. But whenever there was a pass, because the pressing trigger from them was any pass to central midfield, to Unduli, to Umbule, or even Utito, they were aggressively pressing, with intensity, and they were quick, and it was an aggressive press. Any pass to the pivot, and it was clear that the intention is to stop Orlando Pirates from playing using the central corridors. And I think for me in the first half, I think we cancelled each other. And I think for me in the first half, it was more of a tactical game, where Orlando Pirates were trying to resolve the issue that they can't play through the middle. They used more the right back and the left back. And I think Orlando Pirates had a lot of breaks, using those channels. But I just think the final pass inside the box was just not there. The run as well from Radio Pane, from those crosses that were coming inside the box, it was not as efficient as you would like it to be, and at times Orlando Pirates was forced to play long balls, because now both your right back and left back out wide. Now the passes, to play a long pass up to them, and I think we were able to find them. But again, I'm gonna say it, in the final third, we were just not creating chances, because in this match, in as much as Sekhukhune won this match, but they did not create clear-cut chances. Even Orlando Pirates did not create those clear-cut chances where you look at them, you're like, this is a goal. You did not find those, in both teams, in this particular. It was just half chances here and there, half chances here and there. And lucky for them, they scored, the goal that they scored in this instance, right? And Omashielane, specifically, I'm going to talk to him. Somebody was asking on Twitter to say, what was his performance, or how to rate his performance? And for me, I was saying it was bittersweet, because he managed to get himself into very, very good position offensively. And defensively, I can't fault him on anything. And offensively, he is able to get himself into those zones. But when it's time to put the quality crosses inside the box, because this is a game where the little detail mattered the most, because I think both teams tactically, they managed to to balance the game out. And for me, that is what I would say about Omashielane in this instance. So, and when the first half ended, I was like, Sekhukhune, for me, I think they were the happiest in the first half, because the plan was working. Orlando Pirates were failing to progress through the middle, the circle corridor, using wide areas and not being able to penetrate those, penetrate even on those areas, getting enough balls inside the box. And then when they scored the goal, and for me, what was impressive about the corner, or I'm sorry, about the set piece that they ended up scoring from, was that if you go and watch Arsenal, how they position themselves on set pieces, where they've got their attackers dropping away from the lines, and before the take out, the take off the free kick, gets into the ball, they quickly move in between all the other players that are in the defensive line. And for me, it was like, Sekhukhune is watching Arsenal, because that's exactly how Arsenal is doing. And I think there's a lot of effort that is done by Sekhukhune, especially on set pieces, which is one of the most critical areas. And again, Orlando Pirates is caught, on set piece, and we are conceding, not able to clear the ball enough in that particular box. Hey, that sickness, guys, is still following us now in this particular season. And the other thing that also I just felt, there's a variation that Umbogazi was trying in this game. I think even in the previous game, where he was like Unda, where he's gonna take the ball and attack the space in front of him. But there was no positional rotation in place, that when he attacks, somebody drops into his position. It was like something that was not even thought of. And I think even in the previous game, it happened. And when the team win the ball, all of a sudden, we are tested, on transition. And I think one or two moments where we could have been caught. Then the last thing for me, I just felt that, the coach, Abdesalam Wadu, choosing to sub Mariko over Udlamini when the team was 1-0 down. I just felt that in that instance, you need, proven game changers. And I felt that choosing Mariko over Dlamini feels a little bit risky, because he's not tested at this level. And because for me, I think it was more of an experiment playing him instead of playing with Dlamini, especially in the critical phase of the match where Orlando Pirates need a goal. But all in all, Buffett, I just felt that Orlando Pirates really, really tried the level. Because I think both teams were balancing each other. This is one game where I felt Orlando Pirates did not deserve to lose. But if there's anything that I might have missed, guys, please let me know. Please like, comment in this particular, and also make sure you subscribe into the channel. Danko mapagani.